Good evening, everybody. Here we are with a second session of very, very interesting professional development by none other than Dr. Swati Sawant, a professional, a veteran, and yes, our guru. We are looking forward to learn all about assessment as of for whatever you call. And here you are to help us to know more. Thank you, Dr. Sawant, for joining us. Please take over and help us to know more about assessments in IB PYP.
Thank you so much, Pallavi. Thank you, everybody. All right, let's get started. So here we are. I hope you can see my screen.
No, not right now.
All right, just give me a minute to.
Meanwhile, please, everybody keep the cameras on.
All right, can you see it now?
Not right now.
Okay, there I try once again. Sometimes these things do take time.
Absolutely. We understand it more than anybody.
6, 8, 5, 2, 7, 9.
You need any help, Dr. Swati?
No, I don't know why, because it shows sharing from my side.
Yes, now it's there.
It is? All
yes.
Right, wonderful. Great. So here we get started. So assessments in PYP. I would like all of you to share your views in the chat box very quickly about why do you think we conduct assessments? Why do schools conduct assessments? Why do teachers conduct assessments? What do you think?
We need to enable chat because
I have enabled.
Okay, fine. So can some of you at least share what you think about it?
I have enabled the chat.
All right, thank you. Palvi, can you read out a couple of answers?
Sure. Prior knowledge to know more. To check the understanding, to inform teaching and learning, to see progress of students, feedback for our students, gauge and conduct assessments, document for a document of learning, and more and more and more.
Absolutely. So all these answers are absolutely right. We are going to look at today, as we work further and further today, we are going to keep reflecting on what is assessments all about. Is it about learning? Is it about scores? What actually are we doing with the scores that we get from assessments, or the information, the data that we get from assessments? These are some of the things that we are going to reflect on. There are some things, there would probably be quite a few things that you already know, and because this is a mixed group, I've tried to have a bit of everything in it, but we will end up hopefully by being able to create some assessment tools. Assessment, as you all know, it's an ongoing process. It's about gathering, it's about analyzing, reflecting, and acting upon the evidence that we receive from the assessment. So what do we do with that? We use it to inform our teaching and learning. So what is the purpose? It is to identify what the students know, what they understand, and what they can do at different stages in the learning process. So when we say different stages in the learning process, what this means probably is that when you take an assessment at a particular point of time, the outcome may be something, and whatever the outcome is, you are able to infer or make judgments based on that. But if you do the same assessment a little later, probably you may not get the same outcome. And that could be because of the gap between learning and assessment. There could be loss of memory loss, or probably it could be so the outcome could go lower, or the child may do extremely well because the child has maybe, advanced further in his knowledge and understanding. Importance of assessments. So as per PYP, it is assessments are to support the students to acquire subject-specific knowledge, the skills, then understanding of the concepts, both the key concepts as well as the related concepts, development of approaches to learning, all the 5 approaches to learning, the main skills and the sub skills as well, and honing the attributes of the learner profile. So it is not assessing the learner profile attributes, but it is honing. So assessments give an opportunity for the child, for an individual to work on all these aspects. And this is the importance of assessment to support the students in acquiring these things. Types of assessments, you already know: prior knowledge, formative, summatives, ongoing, all of these. But it is extremely important to never, ever start any unit, any learning without prior knowledge assessment. And then after getting the data from the prior knowledge assessment, what do we do with it? We use it for differentiation. And that differentiation, how would that be? We could either give that, we could put those, group the children as per what knowledge and skills they have, that they have demonstrated in the prior knowledge assessment. We could group them according to that. Or we could put them in mixed knowledge or mixed ability groups, wherein the child who seems to have some knowledge or quite a bit of knowledge about what is going to be, taught, what is going to be inquired into, gets an opportunity to further his or her knowledge further. Otherwise, it so happens that sometimes the children who know are given the responsibility of helping the students who probably are struggling with things. And then, of course, the other child who is struggling does do a better job, but the child who knows doesn't make much progress. So this is something that we really need to keep in mind. About formative assessments, as soon as some considerable chunk of knowledge or skills are developed or acquired, formative assessment needs to be done. Ongoing, you keep on going to the same thing over and over again. And as you know, summative happens generally at the end of the unit. Now let's look at this diagram, which comes, of course, from the PYP booklets. So what is the assessment for? It's for the learner to be able to find out where he or she is in the learning process, what has been learned, and what is it that they need to learn more, so to be able to set smart goals or smarter goals. This is also for the teaching learning process. So if this is what the children know, then what do I do as a teacher, as a facilitator? How do I take this learning further, and how do I support the learner? So this is for the teacher. This is also for the student, and this is for the learning community. So it's not only for the learner and the teacher, the facilitator, but also for the parents, definitely, and even the school board or the school owners, the governing body, to check up whether their policies and procedures need some tweaking, or if everything is fine. So this is definitely for the whole learning community. We already saw what is it that we assess. How do we assess it? Through assessment tools and strategies. We are going to look at those, and why we know that it is to inform the teaching and learning. So this is a snapshot of what the PYP assessment policy philosophy is. Moving further, 4 dimensions of assessments: monitoring, measuring, documenting, and reporting. Can you very quickly share in the box, in the chat box, what you think is the most important aspect of, of assessments? I'm going a little fast because we have just 1 hour, and I want us to spend considerable amount of time on actually designing some assessments and assessment tools. Can you just share in the chat box, please? Please start typing. What, according to you, is the most important dimension of assessment? Pallavi, can you share?
Most of them are sharing all. Monitoring, documenting, all of these, all are important. 1 and 3, monitoring and documenting. So,
right, let's see what the IB has to say about this. Okay, so the IB is putting, the PYP chooses to put emphasis on monitoring and documenting. You know, me as the IB PYP coordinator, when I was very new into, this role, and even when I was a teacher, I thought reporting was one of the most important things, because lots of time goes in creating those report card comments, and, stuff of that kind. But actually, the reporting is not going to happen unless you monitor and you document it properly. So this is the stance that IB PYP takes about the dimensions of assessments. And that is because when you monitor and document this provides us critical feedback, critical and actionable feedback for the learner. We can use this to take, to talk to our students and to help them to achieve further heights. So how does monitoring of learning happen? Through observations, reflections, formal, informal sessions, individual assessments, paired assessments, small group, large group, all kinds of things. And how does documenting of learning happen? It happens through learning logs, then portfolios, then through documentation tools, learning stories, even the display boards around the school. They also are good ways of documenting the learning. So there are all formal as well as informal ways of documenting learning. Your notebooks, your files, your folders, all of that is also documentation of learning. And these are your assessment tools. We are going to spend a lot of time looking at these. Rubrics and checklists and continuums. And what I like personally most of all is a combination of above. So in just one assessment tool, based on what the assessment task is, what we could do is we could have a part of it could be a rubric and a part of it could be a continuum, and so on and so forth. Okay, now about measuring learning. Can all the learning be measured? Not necessarily. Can all of it be documented? No, not at all. The child is learning all the time, just because, and the child's learning doesn't depend on your teaching, on a teacher's teaching entirely. The child does learn on his or her own, and this is what we want. And just because teaching happens doesn't mean that learning happens. And just because learning has taken place doesn't mean it is because we as teachers have taught or facilitated something. These can be independent of each other also. So that is very interesting. Measuring learning, it is about when you measure learning, as I mentioned earlier, it is about that point of time. So at this point of time, when I measured learning, this is what the data said. But later on, when I looked at it, probably the data may say to give you another story altogether. Reporting learning, it happens in a variety of ways. And it is through, as you all know, student-led conferences, gallery walks, exhibitions. So it could be through portfolios, through all kinds of things, three-way conferences. So these are the different ways in which reporting can be done. And who administers the assessments? Teachers, peers. Now, when I say teachers, it could be that the unit of inquiry, maybe assessment, a particular assessment, a part of it, the knowledge or the content part of it, and maybe assessed by the homeroom teacher or the teacher who takes the unit of, facilitates the unit of inquiry. But there may be an element of music or art or, some IT component to it. And that could be assessed by the other subject specific teacher. So hence, we could have assessments which are probably administered or even moderated by a variety of teachers, by different teachers. Peer assessment, you can involve parents in assessing the children as well. And there is something, the most important is self-assessment. We really need the children to be able to assess themselves as best as possible. All right. Assessment strategies. Now, this is what we are going to do. This was a quick, just to get all of us started. And now is the most important part of what we are going to do. What I would like all of you to do is do a very quick Google search on assessment strategies and just type in the chat box some of the strategies that you may have come across. You may know you definitely know quite a lot of strategies. You may type some of them as well without doing research. But the reason I'm asking you to do this is that on the internet, you will find a variety of assessment strategies, 60 quick assessment strategies, 25 assessment strategies. There are a whole lot of websites that give you a number of assessment strategies. So I personally felt that there was no need for us to look into assessment strategies because these are things that you can find out on your own. Can you just type at least one or two each?
We have a lot of input. Visible thinking routines, quizzes, exit cards, entry cards, open-minded questions, hand signals, ask open-ended, grasp, reflections, response cards, graphic organizers,
Perfect. And thank you so much, Pallavi. And that is the reason why we are not going to spend time looking at assessment strategies, because it's all over. You just have to spend around 5-10 minutes. If you want to look out for a new strategy, just go over the internet, type assessment strategies, and you are going to get more, you're going to get so many of them. But what is it that we do with these strategies is of importance, and that's what we are going to look at. So some of these strategies, if you really look at them, they could be, very short, quick ones. So entry tickets, exit tickets, admit and exit tickets, or four corners, or open-ended questions. Some of them could take, open-ended question could take a very long time. You can really spend time on it, and that one thing could lead to something else. But it could be an entry and exit ticket, admit, exit tickets could just be very quick ones as well. So it's about why are you assessing, and the practicality of it, how much time. We work in organization, we work in schools, right? And apart from teaching and learning and the explicit curriculum that we have, there is a lot of hidden curriculum as well that we need to, that we are trying to facilitate. So based on all the things that are happening around us in the school, and and the content that we are, or the concepts that we are trying to facilitate, based on that we decide whether it's going to be a quick short assessment. Is that the requirement? And is that what I needed to take my students to understand where my students are and to take them further? Or should they be really in-depth assessments based on the significant elements of PYP. So the standards and practices of the IB PYP, they state that we should assess the different elements of PYP, right? We don't call them the 5 essential elements anymore, because there are more than 5 and there are quite a few significant ones. So we decide as a teacher, you take a call, or collaboratively at your grade level, you take a call on what kind of assessments are we going to take, the ones that really take a considerable amount of time or the quick short ones. Okay, now almost all learning engagements, visible thinking routines, games, or you name it, most things can be converted into assessment strategies by using some ATL skills and attributes of the learner profile. I want you to reflect on this. Take a minute to read it once again and use this as a mantra to be creative, to be risk takers, and try out different things. All right. So what do I mean by this? Let's take an example. You all have paper and pen, right? I'd ask you to keep it ready. I want you to draw. What we are going to do is we are going to draw a few concentric circles, but let's start with the first one. In the middle, just in that circle, I want you to write task. And our task is, I don't want you to copy the task that I have posted over here, but just write task. And because we don't want to spend time writing things. So that's the task. Choose a local or a global issue. Then the second point in it is reflect and write its causes and consequences. List actions in detail, personal, and these actions could be what? They could be personal actions, they could be group actions, individual actions. It could be about advocacy, participation, lifestyle choices, all those details about the action. So it could be about that. Now see, what have we done here? I have taken an action cycle, choose, reflect, act, and I have converted it into a task. So how do I convert it into a task? In the center, I put the task. Now I please make another circle around it. So you got one circle in which you have written mentioned the task. You make another circle around it, and you write choose, reflect, act, and divide it into 3 parts. One part has choose, the other part has reflect, and the third part has act. Okay, now I want you to make yet another circle around it, the third circle. Now this, and again divide it into 3 parts. Now where you have choose, the portion right about choose, the children can choose a local, or you could do it right now. Choose a local or a global issue and write it down over there. Poverty, hunger, whatever it is that you want. Yeah, choose a SDG goal. Next, you have what? Reflect. Now reflect, because I have mentioned over your causes and consequences, divide reflect into 2 parts, causes and consequences, and mention a couple of causes and consequences there. Okay, go to the third one. What action do you want to take? Personal or collective? So you could write personal, and you could mention what is it that you could do, and whether it is about advocacy, whether it is a lifestyle choice, change in the lifestyle, or whatever. You can mention that. So what did you do? I'm going back to this. Almost all learning engagements, visible thinking routines, games, can be converted into assessment strategies or tasks, right? So we converted this choose, reflect, act. We created a task around it, or we created a task sheet around it. Okay. Now, below this, make a table very quickly. Let it have a couple of, say, 4 columns and say 5 rows. Now in the first row and the first column, write choose. Now, if the child has, we are trying to convert this into an assessment tool now, right? So you wrote choose. Now just think about this. Is this the child, you look at the assessment sheet, the task sheet, and what do you see? The child has written down a local or a global issue, right? So you can put a tick or a cross. So that could be your checklist. Or you could write an anecdotal note over there. Go to the next column. Next row, the first column and the next
Dr.
row.
Swati, can you just repeat? I'm getting confused.
Okay. So
From the table.
made a table. Did you all make a table? A couple of columns and a couple of rows. 4-5 columns, 4-5 rows. Okay. First column, first row, you wrote choose. Okay. Below that, write reflect. And after that, write act. Now, there is a reason why I'm not showing this and I'm just saying this. All right. So you wrote choose, reflect, and act in the first column, one below the other. Now, if the child must have either, the child had to choose a local or a global issue, right? So what can you do? So for underneath, under choose, you can either put a tick or a cross. If the child has chosen a local global issue, can you put a tick? And if the child has not chosen, you can put a cross. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. So instead of a tick or a cross, can you write an anecdotal note there?
Yes.
That the child chose a local problem of something, right?
Yeah, I was able to identify a problem.
A problem, and this is a problem that this child chose, right? You can write the name of. So the choose part can be a checklist or a anecdotal note. Can it be a continuum? No, it cannot be a continuum. Okay, so going on to the next one. Reflect and write its causes. So causes and consequences. So about causes and consequences, this has to be a rubric, no? Because the causes could be and consequences could be in details, could require the teacher support or whatever. So over here, you would have say 4 or 5 statements next to reflect. Okay, in the row next to the reflect row, you would have a variety of statements saying, and these could be emerging, developing, extending, excelling, whatever it is that your school chooses, right? Now go to the last one.
One minute, Dr. Swati. So under choose, this is our assessment tool. I'm just clarifying. So under choose, we have either a checklist that the child has chosen or not chosen, a local global issue. Now nested under the reflect, we have another table, which is a rubric.
Yes, the same thing. Yeah, so
yes,
underneath
this
that.
Is very interesting, very interesting.
Yes, exactly. So I'm going to show you some examples also. And there is a reason why I'm just speaking and I want you to follow this. Okay. So below this, you have converted now the action, because this is causes and consequences. A child may write a whole lot of causes and consequences, and another child may need a lot of support to come up with some causes and consequences, right? Also, somebody may write in detail and somebody may just write in brief. And hence here, you cannot have a tick or a cross, correct? That would not be the right way of assessing the child. You will have to put in either anecdotal notes, or you will have to maybe you will have to create a rubric with a variety of statements. Yeah. Now look at the last one, action. Action, again, it cannot be a tick or a cross, right? It has to be anecdotal about details about what is the action that the child has stated, and whether it is valid, not valid, how, whether it is practical, not practical, or whatever. So it could be anecdotal record, note, or it could be a, what could it be? It could again be a rubric. But in a rubric, it best over here would be an anecdotal record. Because in a rubric, what can you put? Can you talk about personal, collective, what is it? Advocacy, participation. It would be too cumbersome to make a rubric out of this, a rubric point out of this. And hence the last one, it would be better to have it as an anecdotal. So the task is just one, teachers. However, based on what did we do? We analyzed the task. So when you are working with assessments, this is my take on it, right? The IB just says that you should look at, all the significant elements of the PYP have to be assessed. But the way I look at it, so this is just my take on it. So what did we do? You created a task, then you analyze the task. When you analyze the task, the analysis makes you realize what assessment tool would best suit the task. So you cannot, sometimes you cannot have, when you analyze the task, you may realize that I cannot just have a rubric for everything. I probably need a variety of other things. Right? And I'm going to show you some examples. The reason why I just, orally said all of this, because I could have really created something out here and showed it to you, right? But I didn't. And the reason being, assessment tasks, assessment tools need to be in every child's hand. So when you create an assessment tool, when you explain the assessment task to the student, you must give the child the assessment tool, because that is your success criteria, right? So the point that I was trying to make is that be creative and try and make interesting, assessments and assessment tools. The child should be looking forward to an assessment, right? Okay, let's move on. And just speaking things and how much ever detailed or how much ever explicitly explain things, it doesn't always help. It is very important to put it down on the board or on the paper, and for the child to be able to refer to it from time to time. All right, let's look at this. So basically, all learners should get an opportunity to hone all elements of the PYP identified for the unit, and later these should be assessed. Ensure, now this year I'm speaking about the unit of inquiry. Ensure that in a unit of inquiry, you have a variety of assessments, small group, large group, individual, as well as use a variety of tools as well. And reflections obviously should happen from time to time. Ensure that there is voice and choice to enable ownership. But when I say voice and choice, please be very mindful, because if you just leave it totally open to the children, that all right, create a like for example adaptation, you want them to look at kinds of adaptations, and you say you can share your understanding through a PowerPoint or through a this or a that, or make a diorama or whatever. If you give them a wide choice, then sometimes you cannot assess the skill. Of course, it is quite all right to give students, you have to be mindful as to what exactly are you trying to do. Do you want them to, like, for example, you may have taught them how to make a Prezi. And earlier to that, you have taught them how to make a PowerPoint presentation. And now you want to look at the application of those things as well. And this assessment or the learning engagement is going to give you an opportunity to assess that also. So do you want to give them, keep it totally wide open and tell them that, oh, you can do this, that, and you can present your understanding in any way? Maybe you are, that is your aim, right? Because you're looking at just the knowledge, just the content. But maybe if you are wanting to look at 2 or 3 other things, then you may want to narrow down your choices also. So it all depends on your school, your context, and at that particular point of time, what is it that you are wanting to do. But definitely give them voice. Definitely the children should have a choice, and it could be in a variety of places, not just necessarily in the assessments. Okay, so teachers, what you are now going to see is some of the assessment tasks and samples that I have guided the teachers of GEMS Modern Academy Dubai to design and implement. We have done these together in our collaborative meetings. Some of them have been done, total hand holding, and we have worked on them together. Later on, I have, we start working on it, discuss in our collaborative meetings, and then small groups of teachers take it further, work on it, and then share back to the group, and share it with me, and we go through it again. So I'm going to share some of these things with you now. And then later on, we are going to do some group work. All right. I am going to now start sharing with you. Can you see my screen?
Yes, Swati, it's visible.
Perfect. What you see now is a grade 1.
Swati, we see the same presentation screen.
Oh, sorry.
No worries.
So I'm going to start sharing some of these assessment tools.
Yes, now we can see.
Wonderful. So I'm sure all of you know of, you must have come across farm to table, which is a very common unit, right? The central idea, the food we eat undergoes several processes to reach from farm to table. So here they had to choose a food item to cook, list down its ingredients, record their explanation of the journey of the ingredients from the farm to the table to the kitchen, and demonstrate the process of preparing the food items through a video. Let's see what we have here. This is the assessment tool for it. Now, what I generally recommend is that, because the IB says that all elements of significant elements of the PYP should be assessed, the first column, I always devote it to the knowledge and the key concepts to start with, the key and the related concepts, the approaches to learning, and probably even the learner profile reflection or approaches to learning reflection, in the unit. So whatever has been identified for the unit, and which is relevant to the task, we mention it over here. Now this, teachers, has been created into a checklist. If you see, the task has been listed over here. This is the student, parent, and the teacher checklist. And these are the approaches to learning that were identified, and they were suitable for this task, and that is why we have them over here. Okay, now moving on to the next one. Can you see the screen now?
No, Swati, it's not visible right now. Might take.
Okay, so 1 second. Okay.
Yes.
Is it the same one? Sorry, no, it's the same one.
It's the same one.
Is there a way in which I can just keep on sharing my screen without going back and forth?
If you select on the share option, share screen instead of particular window, then it will continue to share what you want to share.
Okay, so I have gone to share screen. Now
just select what you want to share. Can you do that?
Yeah,
The
but
option
that
of screen, share screen, option of share screen, first option.
Kriti, our Zoom might not permit you that. Just go on the share screen and select what you want to.
Can you see this now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so I think I'll have to keep that because that's what I was trying to do. So our this thing Zoom is not allowing us to do that, right? Doesn't matter. I'll keep on going back and forth. No worries, but it may take some time. All right, just look at this summative assessment task. Draw an imaginary living thing and give it a name. List all characteristics of that living thing. Draw and label the stages of the lifestyle cycle. Ensure that it has at least 3 stages. Okay. Now this again, this is as you see, they have given it one strange name because the assessment tool, which I will show you shortly, has a rubric, has got a bit of continuum, has got an anecdotal space for anecdotes as well as checklist. So they have taken a bit of, the teachers have taken a bit of everything and have created a new name for it. So this is the task sheet. Okay, now this has been done during the what time? Okay, during the remote learning time. So some of these tasks have been, okay, now I'm going to show you the tool for that. Can you see the tool? Knowledge and concepts. Draw the imaginary living thing, give it a name. Now here, if you see in the last column, red is self-assessment, green is teacher assessment, blue is peer assessment. So that based on what they feel they are, and this is perspective based, that's mentioned over here. So if the teacher feels that the child has done well, so she may want to circle the smiley in the middle. But the child may feel that he is done extremely well. So he may put, will put red around the first one. So in the same thing, based on the color, we can decide, I mean, you get to know who has done the assessment. Then we have some stars over here. Can you see list 1, list 2, etc., etc.? That becomes your rubric kind of a thing. And you have a continuum down over here, which could be a self-assessment where the child and the teacher, the learner profile, how knowledgeable you think you were, whatever could be mentioned here. Now, this is right at the beginning of the year when the children have just come into the school, just, started their lessons in grade 1. So the first unit. I'm just going to show you very quickly some different kinds so that you just get an idea about how creative you can get with these. Now, what I'm going to show you now is based on Solo's taxonomy, and this is also grade 1. Okay, now if you look at this task, reasons, the line of inquiry is reasons for food.
Swati is not visible.
Okay, thank you. Keep on saying that, right? Because
no worries.
Okay. Okay, there you go. Right. So this is again farm to table. And one of the lines of inquiry was reasons for food selection and consumption. So the children were given some scenarios and some personas. so this person eats this kind of food, and this is his lifestyle, whatever. So some scenarios were given, and they had to read the scenarios, choose a persona, give reasons for the food choices, analyze the food that your persona has chosen, and whether it can be eaten every day or sometimes, predict what would happen if the person chooses to eat the food regularly. And we have used the Solos taxonomy for this. So Solos, we just decided to, we felt that we could use Solos over here, and over here we have put down anecdotal records as well. So they circled one of this based on where the child stood and how the child had performed, and then the anecdotes came up over here. All right, I'm going to show you some more, and I'm going to quickly take you through. I have around 12 or 14. I hope you're okay to have a look.
Swati,
And how
if
much
possible,
time do you have?
yes, we are running out of time. It's already 7:46.
Perfect. So I'm going to take you through, say, one grade 3 tool and one grade 4, grade 5 tool. Just have a look at this. So PMI chart, positive, negative, and
Plus minus.
Plus minus interesting chart. Now that has been converted into, just a minute. That has been converted into a task, which has become a rubric. Do you see? So basically what the point that I'm trying to make is that I want you to look at just one more, a grade 5-1.
I'm sure, Swati, everybody's thinking, can these be shared?
I'll have to think about this, because as I said, these are the ones that we have created as a school, but I'm happy to work with all of you further on this. And
even if I think, Dr. Swati, even if just a screenshot, so not the Word document, even if just some screenshots for which we can use for reference, we won't use this, but very interesting, very substantive work. Very good.
Right. So I
second that.
Okay, I wanted you to look at this particular one. Share screen. Okay.
You're becoming faster at this.
Okay, can you see this one now? Inquiry cycle. Okay, these are the things that they have chosen. Reflect using the thinking hats. They have used the action cycle, the action part of it. This is the assessment tool, working towards achieved excelling. They have put what is it here? Your skills. Right? So, all right. You have just seen a glimpse of some interesting things that you can do with the assessment tools and with assessments as well, with assessment task sheets. You saw a lot of task sheets now because we were in the virtual world and we were using the seesaw and stuff of that kind. And we really needed to have lots of evidence about, to reassure our parents that yes, lots of work is happening. And in Dubai, the government keeps on having inspections and we have to provide evidence. So, that's why you can see so many worksheet kind of things. And I wanted you to see some of these. It's not that we always have these. We have a variety, but I wanted to show you some of these. So I deliberately picked a few this way. Right. The point being that you can use anything. Remember, I said there was one statement that I made. Anything can be converted into a learning engagement or an assessment. and anything can be, and it can further be converted into a tool. So what I would like all of you to do is that get into groups and start, Pallavi, put everybody into groups and ask them to start, and let's start working on choose one unit of inquiry and make an attempt to, put something together. You may not necessarily note it down, but you may just first quickly create a task and tell us, come back and share with us exactly, at least a few points about whether you think it's going to be a rubric or a checklist or a combination, and we will take one or two groups, not more. So over to you, Pallavi.
So we are, Swati, we are 45. And how much time you want to give to them? We are at 7:50. Is everybody comfortable to stretch? Show me a thumbs up. And if not, I won't stop you at 8. All right. I think most of them are enchanted by you, Swati. So we are 45 right now. How many groups do you want, and how much time do you want to give to them?
So should we just say that why don't teachers try their own hand at this individually instead of getting into groups? Would you like that, teachers? Take your unit of inquiry, yeah, and I'm going to keep speaking, and if you have a question, please ask, or don't put it in the chat, just raise your hand and ask, and Pallavi will take up the questions one after the other. Pallavi, you will direct me to different people who are putting their hands up, and I will take up their questions. Yeah.
Sure.
So teachers, read your, I'll keep talking so that you know what to do. Read your unit of inquiry. Choose one of the lines of inquiry or the central idea. You know your summative assessment summative assessment is based on the central idea. Formative assessments are based on lines of inquiry. So what do you do now? Choose a line of inquiry or the central idea and try and create a assessment. When you create the assessment, especially if it is for the line of inquiry, I'm sure every line of inquiry has a has a key concept associated with it, right? So every line of inquiry would have a key concept, and it would also have a related concept. So what you should do is the task that you design you should keep in mind whether the key concept is getting covered or no. All right. Also, look at the approaches to learning that have been identified for that unit. Now, when you create your task, please ensure that that approaches to learning is in some way covered. The students get an opportunity to work around it. If you have, say, social skills as one of the approaches to learning, then the children should do this work in a group or in pair, correct? So some such thing. This is just a random example that I gave you. So create your task. Now, after you have created a task, you're going to start thinking, you're going to start breaking up the task. First, the children will do this, and the second step would be this, and the third step is going to be da-da-da, and the fourth step is going to be da-da-da, whatever, right? Analyze the task. Now start thinking. Is it a yes or a no? Is it a right or a wrong? So all those little steps that you have, you are now thinking whether it is right or wrong, whether it is yes or no. If that is, one of the points when you have analyzed the task, that will be a checklist, a tick or a cross. If there is something where you are, it's to do with, say, you cannot say whether it is right or wrong, okay, like an approach to learning, right? One of the skills, it cannot be right or wrong, isn't it? So that would definitely be a continuum. A continuum is a line with arrows on two sides. And you just put a point. So one point is the starting point, and the other one is the further end. Yeah. So one is the beginning, and the other one is excelling. And in the middle, there is a point which says it is the midpoint. So so you can just put a point wherever, right? And this, of course, is subjective. Is there anything in the task that you have designed subjective, which can go as a continuum? Think about that. So that part will go as a continuum. Now look at your task once again. Is there anything in your task, any part of your task which says where the child, you may have to put in things like child needed support, lots of support, not much support, did it independently, whether the thing was done in details or was it very brief, has much understanding, displayed lots of understanding, made real life connections, was able to infer, predict, or whatever. Does your task, when you analyze the task, is there any part which speaks about these things? Then that part would be converted into a rubric. Now look at all the points that you have put. Now, all these points, that the analysis that you have done, you will put it in a tabular form. You saw the tables that we had created. The first column of the table would be elements of PYP. Let me repeat once again, this is not something that the PYP has prescribed. This is something that I think is a good way to, to ensure that all elements of PYP are addressed in the assessment. So your first column, you may mention elements of PYP, and first you can put as knowledge and concepts. Knowledge and key concept, put your key concept, put your related concept. Check the task. Especially if it is a line of inquiry. Does your task take care of the key concept that has been identified? The key concept may be causation, and you may be asking the child to give a perspective. Then technically, your task is not right. Because the line of inquiry, for that line of inquiry, you have identified a specific key concept, right? Say causation, but your task is give your view on something. No. That would become technically incorrect. Okay. But for that line of inquiry, can you, though your key concept is, say, causation, can you look at perspective as well? Surely, but maybe as your learning engagement. But I would avoid it in an assessment.
Dr. Swati, can I get a clarification? So I have created the...
Sonia, can we take this later? Just keep the question.
No, it's for this column, for the table thing only. What we are doing right now, it is about that. I have not. So in the first column, if we are putting, you said the elements of the PY, then where do we write the task? In the next column or in the next row?
Task can be above, no? Task can be above.
Okay, it need not be. Okay.
Yes, task can be above. So I always like the assessment sheet. If you had looked at carefully at all the assessment tool sheets that I shared, I always like to put on top a little box which states the central idea, the line of inquiry, the key concept, and the task underneath it. And why do we do that? So that there is a clear cut indication that this is the line of inquiry, this is the key and the related concept identified for it. And underneath that, what do we have? Underneath that, we have the task. So you can very well look and check whether they're all in sync. Okay, I'm sure my teachers from Pathways and some other schools that I've worked with, they're still following it. Yeah. So
we're all trying, Dr. Sawant. We all are trying.
You're all
and thank you for,
You've forgotten
yes.
what I have taught.
No, not really. On the contrary, our personal ones are still the same. Yes.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. Wonderful. So these are just some of the ways in which you can create assessment tools. I think if the assessment tasks and tools are creative and interesting, the children lose their fear of assessments and they really look forward to, oh, so what is this assessment going to be about? What is the teacher, going to share with us today? What is it that we have to do today? And it gets them all excited and charged up. And that is what we want. We don't want our students to fear assessments, but we want our students to go ahead, with their learning. Having said that, when you take an assessment or when you administer any task or facilitate any task, even if it is an assessment, please ensure that that every child in your class is successful. Your child may not, there may be a few children in your class who may not be able to do anything much with it for whatever reason. But what do you do? I think what we as educators should do is we must help out that child, help the child to complete the task. Somewhere in our records do mention that the child could not do it for whatever reason, right? We keep that record, but the child should complete the task. Or of course, we have children wherein we give differentiated assessment tasks also. That's a different story. But try and ensure that every child completes the task. And when you're helping the child with the task also, the child should feel, yay, I have done it. Every child in your class should go out feeling, at the top of the world, walking 2 inches tall and thinking, yes, I can do it. I did it. Yeah. Success will beget more success. Mention somewhere, but for record state, mention somewhere that the child wasn't able to do. Why was that child not be able to do? Yes, those records we keep, right? But from the child's perspective, as educators, it's our duty to ensure that every single child feels loved and feels that he or she can achieve success.
Yeah. I'm sure we all are feeling the same here.
Thank you. So that's it. Try to put in a whole lot of things in this very short session. But as I had said, Pallavi, we would probably need, more sessions on this. Maybe, I don't know. So yeah, that's it. I'm sure you got a bit of idea about, how creative you can get. And I hope you try and have fun.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Swati. From essentials of designing to the creativity of assessments, task sheets, your exemplars, where the whole community and the committee is a part of assessment, from the teacher to the student and the parent. I think you've given us a taster to what you're going to be unfolding it in coming sessions also.
Oh my God. I'm expecting.
Thank you so much. How can we just let you go?
I tried to rush the first half because I wanted you to look at all those different examples, but well.
I think that was very, very effective, super effective when we have little time and we need to learn. That is where our skills come into play, and you have exhibited them.
Self-management, time management skills have been very bad today.
No, it's been superb. I think we've almost finished our time. Thank you so much for coming to Ecurious Minds. Of course, you're a very, very able member for months of Ecurious Minds and one of the strongest pillars that we have amongst us. We're looking forward to more professional development. And guys, do tune in because we have some more presenters and leaders coming forward with new PDs, our Nano PDs that we have started with, along with the book club. So you all are welcome to share if you want to take a professional development in the coming week. Do not fear anything, please. As we said, that success gets more success. So Dr. Swati, am I correct? So Dr. Swati has definitely raised the bar for all of us, but we are Ecurious Minds who's inquisitive to learn every time. So be the change to bring the change. Do your bit and we will see a changed world. So good night, everybody. Have a lovely, lovely time. Thank you for joining in.